Alrighty guys, welcome back to another Wizard101 video. It's Lockie's 101, and in today's video it's going to be a continuation from last video's gear guide, which was through levels 1 through till 50 and till 60 as well. I also just want to touch on a few points that I made in my previous video that I had a bit of struggle mentioning in the previous video, so I'm just going to touch up on those ones, and it's just going to be centered around the Wintertusk gear and whatnot, and how to actually get it, and some easier ways to obtain it, because I had a couple glitches and stuff happen in my previous video which I do want to fix up on, so I'll go into more in depth with those ones. But other than that, we'll be also talking about levels 60 to 100, so yeah, quite exciting part of the game that you'll be in, so we'll get into that. I'll meet you guys in Trundle Fraud. Alrighty, so you've made your way over into Trundle Fraud in Grizzlehiem Wintertusk, and you have to do a quest if you go to the chief in Trundle Fraud. You go speak to this guy. Sorry, it's just loading a little bit. But you go speak to this guy, Veneer Stormroarer, and he gives you a quest to grab some guys of water and unfreeze a bunch of these bears. And two of the three bears, like this guy, he's not really that great, but there's one more which is really useful, and we'll go over to him. His name is Nut Brightwood, and this guy Nut Brightwood sells some pretty decent rings and Athames at this respective level. So they're all level 50, but yeah, so this is the balance level one, and in the previous video I did talk about their specific one, but the balance specific one gives you decent health, mana, pip, and damage. And then with the ring also decent, again, health, pip, block, and damage. This will serve you really well until the level 56 and 60 rings that you can farm. So I'll get into that one. But these are the ones that you do want to buy when you're at this level. Just get these snapped up. It locks you in for a little while. You can even carry these through into a bit higher levels, which I'll get to shortly. But these ones are really important to grab, guys. I'm telling you. No crafting, nothing whatsoever. There's no real strings attached to it. So get on this one. I didn't mention this in the previous video too well, so I just wanted to mention that. Alrighty, so you make your way back into Wintertusk, and as you go through Wintertusk, your main goal is to make it to Nostrand and to defeat the all the Titans and whatnot through the Grandmother Raven and whatnot, and you get to here. And if you go, obviously, you're around here at the beginning of Wintertusk also, but if you come all the way down here, you gain access to the dungeon Nostrand, and there is this one guy who you can fight at the beginning who drops quite a lot of the gear, actually, in terms of the level 56 gear. Thalet Cold Claws, he's like literally the first boss that you fight. Again, it's kind of hard to farm because a lot of people aren't farming at this level, and you kind of just have to have either a good group of friends on Wiz or people who are willing to farm, which can be quite hard. And going through Discord servers and whatnot, it's kind of difficult to do. So I wouldn't recommend it, but there is a couple good pieces of gear that you can get. So you can also get the bear claw of blank. Alrighty, I did also forget to mention, but there is the garnet of the bear claw, which is a recipe you can get. The recipe is from somebody called Ingolf the Grower. He is in Vestruland, and yeah, he does give you the recipe for it. I forgot to mention this because garnet of the bear claw is really good, and I do recommend it. It gives good damage, mana, gives also energy, good pip chance, good damage, good in and out health, and it also gives good crit block. So I would recommend that, and it also does give a tier circle and triangle socket at level 56. I did forget to mention that, but I thought I mentioned it now. But that is one you can also go for at level 56. Which would be for your school. So I know, for example, the Bear Claw of Death is quite an essential one that Thalet Cold Claws drops. That is one that you can farm here. But he also drops each of the Ring of the Battle Rings, which are each school specific. And yeah, so for each school, he drops, and there's a specific list, and I'll pop some of these on the screen for you guys. But each single one of these are school specific. They give you good damage, health, pip chance, and etc. So they're quite good at this level, and I would go for them. But you could also just do with the rings that you got from Nut Brightwood, because again, there's not much difference. So honestly, guys, it's not essential, but if you do get them, call yourself lucky, because they're very nice pieces of gear. Anyways, let's jump to the next one. I would immediately skip past Atlantia, do the dungeon, however, because it is something that you do have to do to gain access to the next dungeon, which at level 90, this is where the game starts to get really interesting. So Tarturus. So Tarturus dungeon. Again, another staple dungeon in Wizard 101. So exciting to be a part of and play when you first go through. It's really cool. And yeah, this is, you know, the peak of the Aquila kind of like trilogy of all the dungeons that you do. Mount Olympus, Atlantia, now Tarturus. And in Tartarus, there's a couple pieces of gear that you can get. So you can get the one from Hades, which is decent, but it depends if you want to give up the damage from the Sky and Heartstar. I'd recommend staying with the Sky and Heartstar. However, the Hades one used to be quite good. There's also a side boss in Tartarus called Kronos. Kronos drops something called the Blade of the Fell Titan, which at level 90 is a huge upgrade from your Athame that you get from Wintertusk. And again, or any other pieces of gear that you might have gotten through Avalon, Azteca, and whatnot, because I've skipped over some of those. But you don't need those, so these ones are quite good. So the Blade of the Fell Titan is really good. You get at level 90 by farming this guy called Kronos. It's not a terribly... he's kind of hard, but he's like not terribly hard to farm if you get the right people. And yeah, but Hades has also dropped an amulet for each school specific, which is kind of good, but I would not farm it because in a little bit I'll talk about one which is, if not is really good, if not extremely better. So we'll talk about that one, but I'll go port over. But there's also another thing that you can farm at level 90 in Aquila, which is kind of exciting. So we'll go over and do that. Alrighty, so making your way back to Mount Olympus. And in Mount Olympus, there is a side boss called the Gladiator. And the Gladiator is when you do the dungeon and you have to do the puzzle. If you just skip straight past the puzzle and you go through the dungeon doors, it is the Gladiator, and I believe he's got a minion as well. Really hard to solo, so I wouldn't recommend soloing. But he drops something called the Alpha and Omega Ring. It doesn't have the greatest drop rate in the whole entire game, but it is very, very good and a huge upgrade from your previous Ring of Battle or your ring that you got from Nut Brightwood. So very good. I would recommend. At level 90, those are the two pieces of like rings and Athames that you can get, and I would honestly just recommend going for that. So in terms of those pieces of gear, stick with those ones, farm them. But there's also some more gear that you can get, which are kind of cool, that we'll talk about in later. Alrighty, so you make your way through to Nightside. At level 100 is when you get this quest. And the quest you get is from Dworgen, and you talk to Merle Ambrose as well. And they give you a bit of a talk about somebody has come back from the dead. And you talk about that. You talk to, what's his name again? You talk to Mortis, and you go through and he gives you access to Castle Darkmoor because Malistaire's back. Essentially, that's what it is. And alrighty, there's heaps unpack here. Finally, the good stuff. This is like, again, one of the most staple dungeons in Wiz. Like, if you're doing Wizard 101 for the first time, do this dungeon, please, I beg. It is so good. And there's no really way to avoid doing this anyways, so you do need it. It is the best at this level. And for some schools, you can opt to do like Rattlebones and Krokotopia, of course, for the Exalted challenges, for the hats and robes. But I kind of skip that because they do require crowns and farming, and you kind of do really need good wizard friends and like people who play the game who also have the Exalted Jewels. So I honestly don't think it's worth the extra hassle for a little, a little bit better of stats just for a couple of schools. So I would skip that personally. Depends if you're soloing, but I would skip that. First one is actually right when you spawn in to the outside of Castle Darkmoor and whatnot, and it is this guy called Harker. And this guy, interesting little dude over here, what's he doing? Well, he does sell some pretty good things, and these are the decks. And these decks, I'm telling you guys, are quite good. So these are your first decks which give you an extra pip, and getting an extra pip is very important because it gives you access to being able to do a second round 7-pip AoE, which is a game changer in terms of your questing journey, especially soloing. So you can blade and then hit. It's really, really important, and I would recommend it 100%. But he does have a few different options you can go for. So he has the tier 1, which is just... Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. He has these ones, which are the tier 1s, which you do have to craft first. So it's like... you get moats from different places that you have to farm. I know the moat of eternity is where you do get from farming here, but there's like different dungeons that you can farm, I believe. So I think the moat of wisdom is, I'll pop it on the screen. This boss, Mode of Beauty, this boss. Mode of Severity, this boss. Fishing for the Executioner, very difficult, but if you have been doing the basics of Wizard101 and been going through the game and fishing, it isn't really that hard if you use the right spells and you kind of like clear out everything. And yeah, and alrighty, so I did forget to mention it, but Castle Darkmoor is the only place that you can actually catch it. So my suggestion to you is to cast a Winner rank 2 spell, then cast a Reveal Fish School. This is to look for the death fish, and then obviously use your casting spell for the desired fish, which would be a death, and then you try and find it and catch it. If you have no luck, then you want to use summon, cast summon fish, and then keep repeating that process until you have enough for yeah, to craft the deck. So that's pretty much it. Alrighty, so also with the deck as well, you want to get the reagent, which is going to be school specific, of course. So for example, with the village Kapathi's case, it's going to be sapphire, which is representing ice, and then it's also just going to be basically school specific, so on and so forth. But I just want to get into, once you craft the deck, the different versions that you can get after that, which are the tier 1 versions. So you have 3 different tier 1 versions, one having a triangle socket, one having a square, one having a tier. I would immediately just skip these to the square and tier, as you can have these accessed by your rings and jewels and Athames a bit more easily. But the triangle is the rare one, and the triangle one is the most important one. And with the triangle socket, you can use pip opal jewels and accuracy jewels. And these two are what a lot of people struggle with in terms of actually getting from their original gear. So the jewels are actually really important. And especially if you're struggling with getting enough pips, and especially if you're fizzling, it's really important. And with the obviously ability to now 7 pip AoE on the second turn, you do want to have that pip opal chance if you don't have enough, or you don't have it to 100%, or if you just simply don't have enough accuracy, you want to get that up to 100%. So just choose whatever suits you. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We'll go into the upper halls and we'll talk about some more gear that you need to get. Alrighty, so you make your way through into the upper halls, and the upper halls are, again, really exciting because you fight a few bosses and it's really big. And the first boss that you'll be fighting is you'll be talking to this lady who will obviously let you go in here, and then you go into the upper halls, you fight her. I forgot her name, but I'll pop it on screen if I do forget. But you go through her, you fight her, but then you go and fight somebody called Shane Von Shane. And Shane Von Shane is, again, another staple in the Darkmoor dungeon and is really big. And he drops a school-specific amulet, which is incredibly strong. I have it on my Storm, and I'm telling you, it is a game changer. So it gives you good health, good resist, and really good pierce, and also with the option to use a socket. I believe it's a tier socket, so it's really strong. And you want to take advantage of it, guys. I'm telling you, it's incredibly useful, and it's a bit of a pain to farm, but if you have the right people, you know what to do, and you can kind of glitch your way around it. There is ways to make it a lot quicker and a lot faster. But that's Shane Von Shane for you guys. We'll go into the next one, which is the good stuff. Alrighty, so you've completed Castle Darkmoor, and you've also completed the upper halls. And now it is time for the big fight of them all, which is meeting up with Malistaire. And Malistaire, I'm telling you, this is the dungeon you want to be farming, and it is the most exciting one. And here we go. So there's there's a few things that you do want to get, which are dropped by a few of the bosses in this battle, and we'll have a look at it here. So you have the hat, the robe, and the boots for each school specific of Malistaire. So I'm telling you, for nearly every single school, except maybe a couple schools, like I talked about earlier with the Exalted gear, you want this gear. You want it. It's level 100. It's amazing. It's going to give you incredibly strong upgrades, especially from your Waterworks gear and whatnot, which, again, I do not recommend soloing this. I recommend just going through team up, because it is an incredibly hard dungeon, and it's actually nearly impossible to solo Darkmoor. I know one guy who's done it, and I think he did like for 2 to 3 months of trying to do it, and he's very experienced. So I wouldn't recommend trying to solo this. Just go through with some people, and yeah, you'll be able to do it. But we'll actually jump into the dungeon, and I'll show you the couple of people that you'll be able to fight. I won't be able to show you Malistaire, but here's the last fight, and it is pretty self-explanatory, so you don't have to worry about that. But he's the one who obviously does drop the hat, robe, and boots. And at this point, you do have the first boss. So Yevgeny Night Creeper. This is the guy who, for a lot of Wiz people and Wiz people in the community, absolutely hate Yevgeny because, man, he's a pain in the ass to farm, and he's also got some incredibly annoying cheats and minions, especially being ice. God damn, that Tower Shield and Legion Shield is annoying. But the Yevgeny Athame, if you did farm the Blade of the Fell Titan, this one is still better. I'm telling you, the Yevgeny Athame is incredibly good. I'll pop it up on the screen. Again, it is school specific. I farmed it on my Storm, and it is so good. I know on the Storm it's called the Dragon's Talon of Tumult. I'm not sure about the balance though, but I know it is very good. And again, it gives you two circle jewels, which you use to add pierce jewels. Pierce jewels are really strong. So at around level 95, you gain access to pierce jewels. So pierce jewels are very big, and you can sock it onto that. And also it gives you a triangle jewel, which you'll be able to use either pip, chance, or accuracy again. So that's also a really big thing. But the main thing you want is the health, the pip chance, the damage, the crit block. It is amazing, I'm telling you guys. It is so good. But you can still use the Blade of the Fell Titan if you really want to. But the Yevgeny Athame, if you didn't farm the Blade of the Fell Titan, I would farm this, guys. It is very, very, very good. But there's also another guy you can fight. Oh, he wants to chat. You go over to this little lock. You're like, what is this? This is kind of cool. There's something to the side of Yevgeny. Well, it is a boss called Aphrodite. It does require a stone skeleton key, which are annoying to get. So it does make this battle a little harder. I mean, you just have to use a gold one, so this is actually a little easier, but still a bit difficult. But the Aphrodite boss drops are both a ring and a Athame. The ring is better than Yevgeny and Blade of the Fell Titan, and the ring is incredibly better than Alpha and Omega. However, the Aphrodite ring and Athame are both better, but come with the cost of using the skeleton key, and are really annoying to get as the drop rates are terrible. You have to have people in Castle Darkmoor who actually want to do it, and especially if you're using team up or not, a lot of people aren't going to want to use it because they're going to quit, and they're also just going to want to use your skeleton keys also. So it's not really worth it in my opinion, but the two pieces of gear that you do get from him are quite good, and I would get that if you're like trying to do level 100 PvP or something. But if not, and you're just questing through the game, don't even think twice about doing it. Alrighty, the last piece of gear that you will need to complete your wizard at level 100. Here we go. So you're in Chrysalis, you're doing the painful struggle of Chrysalis, and as you do enter the Shadow Palace, you come up against Moras. You do a little quest on the side here, then you gain access to the Spirit Plane, and the Spirit Plane is, again, an annoying dungeon, but it drops one of the best pieces of gear at this level, and I'm telling you, it is so worth farming, and it is the tree root wands. So these are the tree root wands. I do have one on this wizard. If we go here, I do have the Elder Sword and Shield. It is level 100 specific, but again, it is amazing. So before you go on to Morganth, obviously, you have to defeat the 4 tree roots, which I'll go up ahead. They do bring along a lot of challenges. I wouldn't solo these. They're too hard. But if you can get a couple people and you have something like, you know, mass faint or, you know, people who are going to faint and whatnot, you can get it through quite quickly. And if you have a good hitter like a Storm or something, you will be able to farm it. So if I were to farm it, I'd recommend having somebody who has Dworgen's Havoc Hood, a high damage Storm, a support who's going to blade the Storm, and also a secondary hitter as well. That's how I'd go with the setup, but you only really need maybe even 2 to 3 people, I'm telling you. So, but it is quite good. There is also tier 1 and tier 2. I have the tier 1 wand on my balance, which is quite good, but the tier 2 one I'll show on screen here can be a bit more, a little more deceiving. I believe on the balance one it's called the Sandstorm Sword and Shield, so it's a little bit deceiving. They're still quite good, but you don't want to use it as you want to go for the good one, which again is, for the balance at least, the Elder Sword and Shield. And it brings incredible crit block, pierce. Pierce is big, by the way. Decent crit, very good damage, especially your upgrade from the Sky and Heart. So 8 damage, dude, and some pierce and crit. You'll be laughing. It is very strong. But anyways, that brings me to the end of my video. I hope you guys had a lovely time watching my video. I just want to say to you guys, second YouTube video, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys, you know, are just beginning Wiz, or if you guys are coming back to Wizard101, because I'm also a returning player, but I also just want to share my experience with you guys. And yeah, so drop a comment down below if you are a returning player, or whether you are a new player, and hopefully that I am helping you. But also do want to let you know that I do stream over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Lachlan_McGuigan. I'll put it in the link in my description. But I stream nearly every single day if I'm not busy, so make sure you are tuning in. I do stream at quite American friendly times, even though I am in Australia. So it'd be around your like 5 to 12 a.m. like AST, CST time. So do make sure you check that out. But anyways, guys, it's been Lockies101 or Gwig. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful. But peace out, guys. See ya.